Morning, Saturday, April 22nd. So a few things, of course, that I want to share with you. Um, we've been talking about a lot lately about strategy and bringing in like a new way of marketing, a new way to look at sales. Um, the last couple of days we talked about the 12-week year and how maybe to take that and apply that to your life a different way, and also being in awareness of Jace is moving energy right away. And good morning. And a new way of maybe even looking at the works that you've already looked at from the perspective of the balancing between what I refer to as the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Another way of saying that is the being within me, like the creative, the creator within me, and the doer, and having the harmony versus balance. Because when I think of balance, I think of like the scales of justice, and that things need to be like this. And I don't know about your life, but my life has not really had a lot of like that pieces to it. It's had harmony to it, but balance where like the pie is cut into like four equal pieces. For me, that hasn't been my experience. And it, of course, your experience might be different. So if balance feels like a better word for you, then I encourage you to use that. And I really talked about being in awareness of your thoughts, right? Your false beliefs that you might be having, and even your empowering beliefs that you have, because those are just important. We brought in the last couple of weeks, or last couple of days, the money line, the wealth line, right? You have a poverty line, a need line, and a wealth line. And I encouraged you yesterday to uh, change your need line to what the wealth line might have looked like, and then change your wealth line to something else. In doing that, your poverty line, as I say that in quotes for those of you who just listen to the audio afterwards, then becomes your old need line, becomes your new poverty line. So everything shifts, and it allows you to create from a different place and a different space. And then the most important, we talked about visualization and imagination and bringing that into, and then of course, inspired action. So I had an incredible call with Karen yesterday, and we were talking about Karen's helping me with my health challenges. And I said that something about being my body being a work in progress. Didn't even realize that I had said that. So this is why it's so important to have people in your life who have no agenda with you, right? Because she paused and she said, does that feel good? Does that feel light? Do you want your body to be work in progress? Almost, if I would have been drinking coffee or something, I'd have I would have spewed the water out, because it was like a hell no. No, right? And so we looked at the intention behind, and looked at all of the times that I felt like my life. So, right, so the domino effect was all the times that my life had to be a work in progress. Started with my body, right? And then what came from that, the domino effect, was all of the beliefs that I have around my body, and how much work it takes to take care of my body, which is fascinating for me, because false beliefs are insidious. So this is why I love the work that I do, because when you find one false belief, you will see, if you're open to seeing, right? So this is the other piece of it. I asked Divine to show me in all the ways, in every space and every place. And that might have been even a question that Karen used. In all the ways, the places and spaces where I was holding on to what needing to work on something, and it being a process. And so all of the false beliefs around exercise and eating properly, quote unquote, around health and wellness, doctors, naturopaths, like my life, all of the false beliefs that I insidiously still had were unfolded yesterday. What is important is I guess I'm supposed to share with you. So part of the reason that also happened was I took the time out of my day to sit and just contemplate that, right? I took the time to just be, and I didn't need a lot of time, but it was like, I think a half an hour. And I just sat, I put my phone, right, in the other room, turned off all the other distractions, even made sure that I did it in a time and place where there wouldn't be lots of people coming in and out of our house. We have a busy household, right? And went to my safe space, which happens to be my bedroom, is my creative place, my safe space. So went into my bedroom and spent some time. And it was really cool to watch the unfoldment of the false beliefs. Because once you understand what your false beliefs are, you can create a new belief, because a belief is just a decision with evidence. So then I had the new belief, and it had to be a belief that had no yeah buts. So there's a new belief, and then I found the evidence to support the new belief. And so so important, if you don't have somebody in your life on an everyday basis or a regular basis, right, to, I guess, check in with you about those insidious beliefs, divine will assist you. You just have to ask for help, ask your guides for help, right? And be specific, right? So like after Karen and I was like, okay, this is my humor coming in. So this is why I will often say, okay, big guy, right? I want to see every single false belief that I have that's attached or not even attached to what Karen and I were talking about with regards to anything to do with my body, my health, my wellness, my physical being. I was really specific, and that takes time and practice to do that. And what unfolded was about 12 more false beliefs that I've just been carrying around in my back pocket, right? And so then we can be in awareness, and then we can do the work that we need to. Ooh, the work. There's that damn word again. Right? Now, why I'm giggling, everyone, is because I've shared that I don't really like, I resist, no, I don't resonate any longer with hard work. So my possibilities that I have today is to look to see, is the word work a high vibe word for me? And then I can decide what word I want to reprogram if I need to reprogram. But you'll notice, and this is kind of what happens, is you'll use a word that you've used, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, I just heard that word, right? Because a new awareness came into my life about that word. And I'm like, okay, pause. Now the possibilities is to dive into it. And then I can decide what word. If that's not the word, then what word? What word, right? Opportunity I love the word opportunity, right? So that might be a better word, and better in terms of discernment, not in terms of judgment. Right? You will notice, for those of you who've been here with me for a while, you know that I use that phrase a lot in terms of discernment and not in terms of judgment, because I want it to be clear, both to my personality, and I guess to the universe, that my intention is not to judge, but to rather to discern using the universal law of relativity. So bringing that in real quick, the universal law of relativity is measuring things that are relative to each other, the measurement of. So if I have 3 triangles, a small, a medium, and a large triangle, how do I know which one's the smallest? it's in terms of relativity, because I'm looking at the medium and the large. If there was one triangle there, and I would say, is that small, medium, or large? I really couldn't answer that, right? Because then it's up to perception. I might think that triangle small, right? Tasha might think it's large. So that's why when we bring in the universal law of relativity, for me, my brain's connected to, okay, if I'm discerning, I'm utilizing the universal law of relativity. So I want to go bring this back to a little bit of goal setting or intention setting, and how important it is to be able to learn how to let go of your past when you're creating the goal. There's a fine line between creating a goal or intention that doesn't create so much resistance in your life, and the fine line between that and creating a goal that you think that you can accomplish, a reasonable goal. A lot of us might have had the experience where it felt better, for whatever reason, to create a reasonable goal. And there's no, again, no right or wrong. It's just, where are you at in your spiritual development, right? And so if you set an unreasonable goal and you could let go of your past, and we talked about doing it in 12 weeks. Now you can also say 90 days if that feels better, because it's the same time frame-ish, 12 weeks or 90 days. We do know, with regards to time, that we will take as much time as we are given, right? That's brain science, to take inspired action, or, to accomplish the goal. So if you set reasonable goals, and there's nothing wrong with setting reasonable goals, I want you to tap in and check in. Are you setting a reasonable goal because there's fear around setting an unreasonable goal? Right? Because that's different than, I'm setting this goal because I know that I have resistance to it, and I want to release the resistance. And so it's part of the process of releasing resistance. So it's like two very different experiences, two different opportunities that you have around setting goals. So if you set an unreasonable goal, or the reasonable goal because you know you're in resistance, not fear, right? Some could argue that resistance and fear are the same. So you can play along, tap into that, and know that you will take as much time as you are given, right? And so in knowing how time, space, reality works, then you can decide on this next step. Because if we focus on time being the problem isn't actually time. The problem truly isn't that you have time. And that's, as a human being, there's a lot of, I'll get to that tomorrow, right? You hear over and over lots of experiences of people who are in a corporate job or in a job, and they postpone, let's say, traveling to when they retire, and then they've retired, and within a couple of months they've passed, right? So we have this false illusion, all of us do, that we have lots of time. And how do we can observe that? I mean, there are habits that people have that we know that can lead to untimely death, right? And people will still do have the satisfaction of doing the thing versus doing what maybe feels harder, right? Because there's a resistance to harder stuff, right? And so then the opportunity here is, is, what about this feels difficult? What about this feels like work? What about this feels hard? And what would need to shift within you to have more, and I'll use my word, ease and flow? What needs to shift within you so that you can have, right, more ease and flow? Who do you need to be so that you can have more ease and flow? So one of the things I did when I was bodybuilding, I decided to call myself a bodybuilder. So part of my I am statements was, I'm a bodybuilder. And I started that the day that I decided I want to compete. And I was about 65 pounds away from competition weight. And I started talking about, I'm a bodybuilder, right? I'm going to be on stage. And I imagined what it would be like to be on stage. I picked out my music to pose to right away. I found a posing coach, right? And the posing coach was like, why are you hiring me now? And I'm like, because I'm going to be on stage. And I remember her going, okay, right? And I hired a bodybuilding coach. I didn't hire a personal trainer. I hired a bodybuilding coach, right? I did lots of inquiries. What kind of supplements does a bodybuilder take? What kind of food do they eat? How much water do they drink? What kind of water do they drink? How do they think? Right? I just developed the mind of a bodybuilder. I made a decision of that's what I wanted to do, and did that. And so we can do that in any of our 12-week periods. We can ask, so who do I need to be? So in that particular instance, I need to be a bodybuilder. I needed to behave like a bodybuilder. I didn't need to behave like someone who wanted to be a bodybuilder. Do you feel and see the difference? I behaved as a bodybuilder. I didn't behave as someone who wanted to be a bodybuilder. Someone who wants to be a bodybuilder works out when it's convenient. A bodybuilder works out every day because they have a competition and they're going to be standing on stage, right? So a bodybuilder eats on point at least 80% of the time. Someone who wants to be a bodybuilder does the best that they can. Right? And so this can be tricky because if you're a perfectionist, you might put undue stress and strain, on your person, on your body, and the challenge can be to move into ease and flow and let go of perfectionism, while at the same time behaving as if you are that thing. And it is a state of where you're creating, I would use the word, for me personally, that's when it would be a balancing act. Right? That's when that would come in for me personally. So in your next 12 weeks, as you set intentions or goals, ask yourself, right? Who is it that I need to be? Right? And over and over again, what came for me when I first started doing this was that I needed to be 100% committed, and I needed to be 100% present, and I needed to be focused, and I needed to be courageous, and I needed to be open, and I needed to be in transformation. And so when I understood that, because for me, I had a huge challenge with commitment, right? All of my life up until that point in time, I had one foot in one door and one foot in another door. I always kept like the back door open, right? Always had a plan B and a plan C, probably a plan D as well, right? Because you never know when things aren't going to work out. And so what I had to let go of was, this is the plan, and have faith that that if I made a commitment and made a plan, that the plan would work out. Now, for me, that was where my opportunities were, because I had felt that I had failed, and it was a failure of self, right? But I felt that I had failed so many times that I was hesitant to make a commitment to one thing. I had a real challenge with a mindset of the one thing. Right? So if you're in the same space as desiring to have a plan B, C, or D, can you, for the moment, for 12 weeks, can you let go of the other plans and focus on the plan that you wrote down? Not forever. I'm just saying for 12 weeks. What's the plan? What's the thing? Right? And then who do you need to be in order to have that? Right? So part of the reason why we feel like, from the time perspective, that we have enough time or we don't have enough time is because our hesitancy to commit, right? And we are maybe even unsure of who we need to be. When you decide who you need to be, there is ease and flow to that, right? Because sometimes in that, and I asked it every day, who do I need to be today? Because sometimes what I needed to be was, I need to be forgiving of myself, right? It was the first time that I really experienced how the planets, and specifically the moon, affected me. So I needed to be forgiving of myself. I needed to be in awareness of how I was being affected by other energies, right? I'm an empath, like many, if not all of you, and I'm a reflector, which, so my energy centers are all open, right? So I'm affected by energies around me all the time. And so I needed to adjust, right? And even not knowing about being a reflector, I knew, though, I needed to adjust my timeline, like my days, to reflect when the new moon and full moon, was coming. Even not even knowing what that meant, I just knew that the moons affected me. And so then I started to really look at that. So the reminder of when you set a goal, right, conscious or unconscious, will often be brought from your past. So conscious thoughts and unconscious thoughts are often brought from your past. So what the next piece is, are you willing to let go of your past? Can you, for a moment, erase the past, whether they were successes or not? So it's not forgetting, but it's just take a pause when you're setting the goal. What if you were capable of anything? What if you had, which you do have, unlimited, we all have unlimited or limitless potential. We just have not been taught how to access it. And I believe it has little to do with hard work. Okay? And so what if you could tap into the limitlessness of who you are? Would you still set that same intention? Right? This is the fine line, right? Do you have the potential to create $1 million in 12 weeks? Do I have the potential? Yes. Can I wrap my head around that in 12 weeks? No. So I'm limited only by, I'm not able to wrap my head around it in 12 weeks. Right? And so, so if I had decided that that's what I wanted to do, then I would start asking divine, show me all of the ways that that can be possible, right? Show me the limitations, help me release the limitations. What kind of commitments are required? Show me how to make those commitments, right? So whether it's $1 million or it would be $1,200, right? The amount of money is irrelevant. The process is the same. But I use that a large amount of money because for a lot of people, $1 million in 12 weeks doesn't feel like it's possible or plausible, right? And some of you might even be hearing, well, why do you need $1 million in 12 weeks? Well, then we'll go back to why does it have to do with anything about needing? If you truly desired $1 million in 12 weeks, you have the possibilities within you to create that. So lots of times we may not even think about that being possible because it's not a desire either. So that's when you tap in, do I have a desire to do $1 million in 12 weeks? Like, what would that look like? What would that feel like? Where would I go? What would I do? Right? Can you be excited about it? Right? And so, starting there, right? Can be just a lot of fun and just that experiment of what if it was $1 million that I wanted to create? Like, who would I need to be to do that? Right? And then just be so aware of some of those limiting beliefs, right? The first one that came up for me was, well, I don't want to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what came to me, right? I was like, oh, that's still. So that limiting belief of 24/7, which that was my life before, is still there. There's still a part of my psyche that goes into, well, that would require 24/7. And then now I can go, but what if it didn't? What if it didn't require 24/7? Then would I desire $1 million in 12 weeks? So this is the opportunity that you have, the questions, the dreaming that you can have at your disposal if you allow yourself to let go of the past and not utilize your past and bring it into your present to set an intention or set a goal. Even further, I would recommend having some quiet time. So for me, it's journaling, listening to Solfegia notes on YouTube and journaling about what do I actually truly desire? Not what does my brain desire? What do I think can happen? Letting go of the functionality and the logical side of myself and go, okay, well, what am I being called? What am I being compelled to desire to create? What would that look like, right? What intuitively, God inspired, God mind inspired, right? Higher power inspired. What if I let go of the reins and I said, okay, big guy, why don't you share with me what my goal should be in the next 12 weeks? Well, that gave me shivers and a little bit of like, holy fuck. It's like, okay, so I still have some control challenges. All right, then. But what if we did that? What if we, rather than relying on our own brain pan and our own experiences, what if we asked the divine in us to set an intention? Anybody else, does that feel like that feels kind of cool, but there's a little bit of there's resistance there for me because that would require that I couldn't make the decision. That me, the personality, I wasn't making the decision, right? Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do today now, sharing with all of you. I'm going to be redoing my 12-week goals with divine guiding me. And yes, Sherry, trusting the divine, the divinity within me. And maybe it might be the same. I don't know. Right? The intentions might be the same. But rather than my personality with all of my incredibly awesome experiences that I've had, right? Making the decision to trust the divine within me to guide me in making this decision. So if we say things like, I'm going to accomplish this in the next 90 days, we can do that, and then we can create some space. We'll create space in the mind that has borders and rules around it. And depending on how you feel about borders and rules, that's how you'll behave. Some people love rules and borders and boxes, and right. And some people who have a bit of the rebel in them go, oh, that's a rule, and I'm a rebel, and so I'm not going to follow those rules. And so what happens is then we'll fill that space with other things, right? Fill the space of the 90 days with other things that don't move us towards that, because there's a part of us, some of us have the role of the rebel, right? And so what you can, rather than saying, right, I am going to, since future paced, I am going to accomplish this. Speak as if it's happening now. No future pacing, right? I am, and then whatever that is. Another way is, isn't it cool that? So often I'll say, wouldn't it be cool if, future paced, isn't it cool that I'm doing this thing? Isn't it cool that I'm a bodybuilder, right? How much fun is that? So I used to say all the time, right? And I didn't go around sharing with everybody, oh, I'm a bodybuilder, right? I didn't want to create the doubt, like the woman who looked at me when I hired her for posing and was like, kind of, turked her head, and like, and so there wasn't a lot of people in my life that knew that I was going to compete, right? And actually I think I was a month away from competing when people were like, you're looking kind of muscular, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm competing, right? I bought a bikini early on, so I'd never worn a bikini in my life. And so I wanted to be comfortable. So I went to like Walmart, bought a bikini, walked around in a bikini in my house to be comfortable walking around in a bikini, because the bodybuilder bikinis are like tiny bikinis, right? And so I wanted to be comfortable, right? While my suit was being made, right? And so I acted as if. And that's what you're going to do. Act as if. Who do you need to be? And then you act as if. You act as if it's happening. And when I was, people would offer me foods that weren't on my food plan, I didn't say no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't eat that. I just reminded myself, the first question I asked was, would someone who's going to be on stage in June, who's a bodybuilder, would they eat the nachos and cheese? No. And I just said, no, thank you, right? But I had a step that I had to ask myself all the time. Someone who's going on stage in June, right? Would she be drinking alcohol? No, right? Lots of bodybuilders don't drink alcohol because there's like unnecessary calories, right? And it's harder on your kidneys when you're doing all the things. So, right? So I was like, nope, not going to do that either. So that you have the opportunity to, whatever your intention is, right? You have this opportunity then to behave that way. Take the action of that woman, right? And chances are there'll be different opportunities of decisions that you have before you doing that. So I've got some chat. I love this when there's chats. Yay! Yeah. Oh, thanks, Diane. So Diane was just sharing, if you hadn't seen everyone, this speaks loudly to her because she's been a non-goal setter. I know, right? And Karen, thank you. Struggle with commitment and follow through, right? Sherry talked about trust. And who do you choose to be rather than need to be for me feels better. I love that. Yes. So what words are important, right? So Sherry, what Sherry is saying is the words for her is, who do you choose to be rather than who do you need to be? Because that resonates more with her. And this is important why you take what's being shared with you by the guides, because it might not even be your guide that said that. And your guides then, right, will help you decide what resonates with you, right? You can be in awareness of what you're in resistance of, which is also a beautiful opportunity. And then what words will resonate with you, will feel better, will vibe within you differently. So I'm being guided to leave you with a question today, which is if if you sat down with the divine within you today after the call, if you have time, if you can create the time, and have a cup of coffee or tea or water or whatever it is that you're drinking this morning, and ask if you were to set intentions and goals on my behalf, knowing what I'm capable of, knowing what everything about me, what would you share with me? What intentions or goals would you provide me with? I'm having a real conversation, right? And then watch the unfoldment of whether there's resistance or not, the yeah buts or not. Because that just sounds like a lot of fun to me, right? To not have my personality set the goals, right? And rather than tap into the power within me, and you tapping into the power within you. So thank you. Let me just pause this. Does anybody have